The moving truck blocked my driveway as my younger brother Travis stood there, a smug smile spreading across his face. "This house is mine now, Dana. Always was." His new wife and in-laws nodded behind him, already carrying boxes toward my front door. My hands trembled, but I kept them crossed firmly against my chest, forcing my lips into a smile. The betrayal burned like acid in my throat. Yesterday, I'd hosted his wedding in my backyard. Today, he'd come to take everything from me. But he didn't notice the sedan parked across the street. 5 years ago, I purchased my grandmother's house after saving every penny from my physical therapy practice. This wasn't just a property investment. It was my sanctuary, my roots. The pale yellow Victorian with its wraparound porch had been my safe haven during our parents' explosive divorce when I was 15 and Travis was just 11. While our parents fought over everything except custody of us, Grandma Martha opened her doors and her heart. "This house has witnessed 5 generations of women finding their strength," she'd tell me as we baked cookies in her kitchen with its original tile floor. "Someday, it might witness yours too." When Grandma passed away 3 years after I finished college, I was devastated but determined. I worked double shifts at the rehabilitation center, lived in a tiny studio apartment, and saved enough for a down payment. The mortgage stretched my budget thin, but waking up in Grandma's house, my house made every sacrifice worthwhile. Travis had taken a different path. While I studied and worked, he charmed his way through life, dropping out of community college after 2 semesters to find himself. I supported him financially more times than I could count, always believing in his potential. He was my baby brother, and after practically raising him through our teenage years, I couldn't help but feel responsible for his success. Last October, Travis called me sounding more excited than I'd heard him in years. "Dana, you're not going to believe this. I proposed to Allison Harper last night, and she said yes." The Harper family was known in our small town of Millfield. Walter Harper owned the largest real estate development company in the county, and his wife Judith was on every charitable board worth mentioning. Their daughter Allison had gone to private school and then to an expensive East Coast college. How Travis had managed to win her over was beyond me, but I was genuinely happy for him. "That's wonderful, Travis. Tell me everything." As we talked, his voice shifted from excited to hesitant. "So, we're looking at venues for the wedding, and nothing feels right." Then I remembered all those family gatherings at Grandma's house. I mean, your house now. My stomach tightened slightly. "What are you thinking?" "Allison and I were hoping we could have the wedding there, in the backyard. It would mean so much to have it at our family home, plus it would save us a fortune on venue costs." Despite my reservations and the financial strain it would cause, I agreed. This was Travis's big moment, and I wanted to support him. The backyard would need significant work to host a wedding, but I convinced myself it was an investment in both my property and my relationship with my brother. Over the next 6 months, Travis became an increasingly frequent presence at my house. At first, I welcomed his help with wedding preparations. We cleared out old garden beds and planned a new patio installation together. It felt like we were reconnecting after years of growing apart. Then, things began to change. I'd come home from work to find Travis in my house without warning. "Just measuring for the tent," he'd say, or checking the lighting for evening photos. Once, I caught him quickly closing a drawer in my home office. "Sorry," he laughed awkwardly, got turned around looking for extra extension cords. I brushed it off until one rainy Tuesday when I left work early with a migraine. Travis's car was in my driveway, though we had no wedding planning scheduled. Entering quietly through the side door, I heard him upstairs in my office. I paused at the bottom of the stairs, listening to the distinct sound of a camera shutter clicking repeatedly. When I reached the office doorway, Travis was photographing the deed to my house that I kept in my desk drawer, alongside my grandmother's will. He hadn't heard me approach, too absorbed in his task. "Travis, what are you doing with my documents?" He jumped, nearly dropping his phone. "Dana, you scared me." "I was just, His eyes darted around the room. The wedding planner needed house dimensions, and I thought there might be an original floor plan in here. The explanation made no sense. Why would a wedding planner need my property documents? Why was he taking photos instead of simply asking me? As he hurriedly replaced the papers and left, claiming he was late for an appointment, a cold feeling settled in my stomach. For the first time, I wondered if there was something more behind his sudden enthusiasm for holding his wedding at my home. The next 3 months disappeared in a flurry of wedding preparations. I spent nearly $15,000 from my savings upgrading the backyard. New landscaping, a repaired deck, upgraded outdoor lighting, all improvements I tried to convince myself would increase my property value long after the wedding. Still, the financial strain kept me up at night. I had to dip into my emergency fund to cover my mortgage payment in April, something I'd never had to do before. Meanwhile, Travis brought Allison to visit more frequently. She was tall, blonde, and had the confident posture of someone who'd never worried about money. During her first full tour of the house, her comments left me unsettled. "This primary bathroom needs a complete overhaul," she said, running her finger along my perfectly functional but admittedly dated countertop. "And this would make a perfect nursery someday," she added, pausing in my home office. "Allison loves old houses," Travis explained with a nervous laugh. "She's always thinking about renovations." "This is a lovely family home," Allison told me with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "You're so lucky Travis is letting you live here." Before I could correct her bizarre phrasing, Travis quickly changed the subject. I tried to dismiss it as pre-wedding stress, but the comment lingered uncomfortably. Things became even stranger when Allison's parents came to discuss wedding logistics. Walter Harper walked through my house like a man assessing a new investment property. "These walls could come down to open up the space," he commented to Travis, completely ignoring my presence. "The kitchen will need gutting, of course." Judith Harper added, "Once you put your personal touches on it, this place could actually be quite charming." I stood in my own kitchen, feeling invisible as they discussed my home as if it already belonged to the young couple. When I tried to interject, Travis put his arm around my shoulder and steered me toward the backyard. "They're just excited about the wedding," he assured me. "You know how parents get." A week later, I came home to find boxes stacked in my basement. "Just some of Travis's things," my neighbor Paul explained. "He said you knew he was dropping them off." I hadn't known, nor had I given permission. When I called Travis, he acted surprised by my concern. "It's just temporary, sis. My lease is ending, and the new place isn't ready yet. I thought you wouldn't mind storing a few things at the family house." "My house," I corrected him. There was a pause before he laughed it off. Right, your house. For now." The way he emphasized those last 2 words sent a chill through me. That evening, I overheard Travis on my back porch, speaking intensely into his phone. "After it's mine, we can do whatever renovations you want," he was saying. "Yes, even the sunroom addition. Look, I've got this handled. She doesn't suspect anything." When I confronted him, Travis claimed I'd misunderstood a conversation about a surprise wedding present. He reminded me of childhood memories, speaking as if the house had always been equally his. "Remember when we used to slide down these stairs in laundry baskets? When we'd hide in the attic during thunderstorms?" he reminisced. "This house has always been our home, Dana, not just yours." His gaslighting left me doubting myself, wondering if I was overreacting. But as the wedding approached, my anxiety intensified. I began keeping my important documents in a locked safe at my office and installed a small security camera in my home office after finding the desk drawers rearranged again. 2 weeks before the wedding, Travis left his laptop bag in my living room when he ran out to take a call. The bag was partially open, and I could see a folder labeled Harper, Family Estate Planning. I knew I shouldn't look, but my growing unease overrode my scruples. Inside was a legal document titled Property Transfer Strategy, Reclaiming Family Assets. My hands shook as I scanned the contents. The document outlined a strategy for Travis to claim ownership of the grandmother's property currently occupied by sister. It referenced establishing pattern of residence and documenting rightful ownership transfer. I hastily returned the document when I heard Travis returning, but my mind was reeling. This wasn't paranoia. My brother was actively plotting to take my house, seemingly as a condition of his marriage into the wealthy Harper family. The betrayal cut deep, but I forced myself to remain calm. I needed more information before confronting him, And with the wedding just days away, I decided to watch and wait. That night, I couldn't sleep. The brother I thought I knew would never do this to me. Yet the evidence suggested Travis had changed, or perhaps I'd never truly known him at all. I lay awake wondering how my life might change if I lost my home, the only place I'd ever felt truly safe. By morning, I had made a decision. I would protect what was rightfully mine, even if it meant standing against my only brother. The wedding day arrived with perfect spring weather. White chairs lined my freshly landscaped lawn, and a floral arch stood where Travis and Allison would exchange their vows. I'd spent the morning arranging final details, pushing aside my growing suspicions to focus on hosting duties. This was still my home, and I was determined to be a gracious hostess despite everything. The ceremony itself was beautiful, I had to admit. Allison looked stunning in her designer gown, and Travis appeared genuinely happy. As they exchanged vows, I tried to recapture the love I'd always felt for my brother, the little boy I'd protected through our tumultuous childhood. For a moment, watching him smile at his bride, I almost convinced myself I'd misinterpreted everything. Then came Travis's wedding speech. "Allison, today I'm not just gaining a wife. I'm coming home," he said, raising his glass. "This house represents our family legacy, and now we get to continue that legacy together." The guests applauded, but I felt the blood drain from my face. Travis hadn't mentioned me once, the sister who owned the house, who had spent thousands making this day possible. Throughout the reception, guests approached me with strange comments that only deepened my unease. "Travis has been dreaming about settling down in the family house for years," his college roommate told me. An elderly aunt patted my hand sympathetically. "It'll be an adjustment going back to apartment living, but you're still young." Each comment confirmed my worst fears. Travis had been telling people he was taking ownership of my house, and apparently everyone believed him, or at least no one questioned his right to do so. I tried repeatedly to speak with Travis during the reception, but he skillfully avoided me, always pulling away to greet another guest or attend to Allison. I felt increasingly isolated at an event I had paid for, in my own backyard. Midway through the evening, I went inside for a moment of quiet. Through the kitchen window, I spotted Walter Harper walking 3 men in business attire around the perimeter of my property. They were taking notes and photographs, pointing at various features of the house. One man appeared to be a contractor I'd seen working on Harper developments around town. Later, needing a quiet moment, I retreated to my bedroom. My laptop was open on the bed where I'd been checking emails earlier. Out of curiosity, I opened a browser and searched Allison Harper wedding. A Pinterest board titled, "Our Future Home" appeared in the results. When I clicked, my stomach dropped. The board was filled with photos of my house, my living room, kitchen, even my bedroom, all annotated with renovation plans and decorating ideas. "Master Suite after renovation," read one caption under a photo of my bedroom, clearly taken during one of Allison's visits. I was still processing this discovery when voices drifted up from the patio below my window. I recognized Walter Harper's authoritative tone immediately. "The house is part of the marriage deal," he was saying to someone. Travis promised he'd secure it as their marital home, or Allison wouldn't marry him. "My daughter doesn't settle for a man who can't provide what she deserves." A second male voice responded, "And you're confident he can deliver?" "The sister seems firmly established." Walter laughed dismissively. Travis found some interesting language in the grandfather's will. Besides, Dana is a pushover where her brother is concerned. She'll cave when pressured, always has. "We're already planning renovations starting next week." I stood frozen, my hand pressed against my mouth to stifle any sound. The casual cruelty of their dismissal stung almost as much as the confirmation of Travis's betrayal. They had been planning this for months, maybe longer. My brother had orchestrated his wedding at my house, not from sentimentality, but as the first step in stealing it from me. As the reception continued below, I sat on my bed making notes of everything I'd discovered. The beautiful day I'd worked so hard to create now felt like an elaborate trap. Tomorrow would bring a confrontation I'd never imagined facing, but tonight had clarified one thing. My brother had chosen his path, and now I would choose mine. I barely slept that night, By 6 the next morning, I was already dressed and waiting in my car down the street from the bed and breakfast where Travis and Allison were staying before leaving for their honeymoon. I needed answers, and I needed them without Travis having time to prepare his lies. At 7:30, Travis and Allison emerged with Walter and Judith Harper, heading to a local cafe for breakfast. I waited until they were seated by the window before entering and taking a booth nearby, partially hidden by a decorative plant but close enough to hear their conversation. "The movers are confirmed for 10 o'clock, Walter was saying. "We'll meet them at the house." Travis nodded. "Dana usually works Sundays at the clinic. She won't be home until evening." "Are you sure she'll just accept this?" Allison asked, sounding nervous for the first time since I'd met her. "It seems extreme to just move in without warning." "Trust me," Travis assured her, reaching for her hand. "Dana will make a scene initially, but she always backs down when pushed. She's been saving me since we were kids. She won't stop now." Walter Harper leaned forward. "Remember, son, possession is 9/10 of the law. Once you're established in the residence with your belongings, changing the narrative becomes much easier. The documentation we've prepared will handle the rest." I'd heard enough. Leaving money for my untouched coffee, I slipped out and drove straight to my office, where I kept a fireproof safe with my important documents. I retrieved everything related to the house: the deed, mortgage statements, tax records, and most importantly, my grandmother's will. Back home, I began systematically photographing every room, documenting my possessions and the state of the house. Then I called Sam Parker, the attorney who had handled my grandmother's estate. "Dana, it's been a while," he greeted me warmly. "How's the house?" "That's actually why I'm calling," I explained. "I need to verify some information about Grandma's will. Has Travis contacted you recently?" There was a telling pause before Sam answered. "He came by about 3 months ago, asking questions about your grandfather's intentions for the property. He seemed to think there might have been some verbal agreement about the house going to the male heir eventually." "And was there?" "Absolutely not. Your grandmother was the sole owner after your grandfather's death, and she was explicit about you receiving the house, though she did request you consider allowing family gatherings there when possible. Travis has no legal claim whatsoever." That confirmed my suspicions, but also raised a new concern. "Sam, what exactly did Travis ask you?" "He was particularly interested in a letter your grandfather wrote years ago, mentioning that he hoped the house would someday go to the youngest grandchild. At the time, they thought your mother might have more children, and you weren't born yet. Travis was suggesting this created some kind of binding commitment that superseded your grandmother's will." "And does it?" Sam laughed. "Not remotely. It was a sentimental comment in a personal letter, not a legal document. Besides, your grandmother outlived your grandfather by 20 years and had clear title. Her will is unambiguous." Thanking Sam, I hung up and immediately called my closest friend, Jessica Ellis, who happened to be a real estate attorney. "I need your help," I told her, explaining the situation. "Travis and his new in-laws are planning to essentially take over my house today. I need to know my legal options." Jessica didn't hesitate. "First, document everything. Second, I'm coming over with my partner Thomas Wright. He specializes in property disputes. We'll be there before they arrive." While waiting for Jessica, I did more research. A search of county records revealed something shocking. Travis had applied for home renovation permits for my address, listing himself as the property owner. Further digging uncovered that he'd submitted a change of address form with the Postal Service, rerouting my mail to his apartment starting next week. This wasn't an impulsive act. My brother had been methodically planning to steal my home for months, creating paper trails and false documentation to support his claim. The level of calculation involved made my chest ache with betrayal. By 9:30, Jessica arrived with Thomas Wright, a distinguished-looking man in his 50s. They reviewed my documentation while I explained everything I'd discovered. "This is attempted fraud, plain and simple," Thomas stated after examining the evidence. "The good news is you have clear title and an unambiguous will. The bad news is family property disputes can get messy, especially when one party is willing to lie and forge documents." "What should I expect?" I asked. "Based on what you've told us, They're planning to establish physical possession first, then claim legal right through falsified documents or misrepresentation of your grandfather's wishes. They'll likely try to intimidate you into leaving while they sort things out. Under no circumstances should you leave the property, even temporarily, Jessica added. We've seen cases where family members change locks and claim abandonment. Your brother has been creating a narrative that this is rightfully his home and you're just a temporary occupant. As we finalized our strategy, I heard vehicles pulling into my driveway. Through the front window, I watched a moving truck park followed by Travis's car and the Harper's luxury SUV. My hands trembled slightly, but my resolve was firm. This house was mine, bought with my money, maintained with my sweat and tears. No one, not even my brother, had the right to take it from me. Thomas placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. Remember, stay calm and let us handle the legal aspects. You've done nothing wrong, Dana. You're the rightful owner defending your property from fraud. I took a deep breath and nodded. I'm ready. I stepped onto my porch as Travis approached with a confident swagger. Behind him, two movers began unloading furniture from the truck while Allison directed them. Walter and Judith Harper stood nearby, watching with satisfied expressions like spectators at a victory parade. Morning, sis, Travis called casually. Hope you don't mind the early start. We wanted to get settled before heading to Aruba tomorrow. I crossed my arms over my chest. Settled where, exactly? Here, of course. He gestured expansively at my house. Our new home. Your new home? I repeated flatly. You mean the house that I own, that I pay the mortgage on, that has my name on the deed? His smile dimmed slightly, but quickly recovered. Come on, Dana. Let's talk inside. He moved toward the door, but I didn't budge from my position blocking the entrance. No, Travis. Let's talk right here, where everyone can hear. Walter Harper stepped forward with the confident air of a man used to getting his way. Dana, there's no need for drama. Travis has explained the situation to us. This house has been in your family for generations, and now it's time for the next generation to take over. You've had your time here. Is that what he told you? That I was just borrowing my own house? Travis explained that while you've been living here, the property was always intended for the male heir according to your grandfather's wishes, Judith added with a condescending smile. Very progressive of you to step aside gracefully. I looked at Travis, who at least had the decency to look uncomfortable. Is that what you've been telling people? That you have some claim to my house because you're the male heir? It's not that simple, sis. Grandpa always wanted the house to stay with the family name. You know you're going to get married eventually and change your name, but I'll always be a Thompson. Plus, Allison and I need the space for our future family. His tone was reasonable, as if explaining something obvious to a child. That's absurd. Grandma left the house to me in her will. I bought it legally. I've been paying the mortgage for 5 years. There is no male heir provision. Travis's expression hardened. Look, I didn't want to do this the hard way. He pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket. I have documentation that proves Grandpa intended the house to go to his youngest grandchild, me. Plus, you signed this. He withdrew a document with what appeared to be my signature at the bottom. I took the paper, immediately recognizing it as a forgery. The document claimed I was gifting the house to Travis as a wedding present, effective immediately. This isn't my signature. My voice was deadly calm. Dana, don't make this difficult, Travis sighed, sounding genuinely disappointed in me. You've always said you'd do anything for me. This is just another way of showing that love. I need this house to start my marriage right. The Harpers expect certain standards. Allison appeared beside him. We've already planned the nursery upstairs in your office. The painters are coming Tuesday. You mean my office? In my house? I clarified. Former office, Walter corrected. Travis has generously offered you 48 hours to pack your essentials. The rest can go into storage until you find a suitable apartment. The audacity was breathtaking. They stood on my property, discussing how to divide my possessions, where I should live, all without a hint of shame or doubt. You're not moving in, I stated firmly. Travis's expression darkened. Dana, don't fight me on this. I've earned this. Do you have any idea what it was like growing up in your shadow? Perfect Dana, who got all the attention, all the praise. I was just the afterthought, the spare kid nobody really wanted. His voice grew bitter. You think you were taking care of me? You were controlling me, making sure I knew how much I needed you, how I could never measure up. I stared at him, shocked by this twisted version of our shared history. Is that really how you remember it? I practically raised you while our parents were destroying each other. And now it's time for you to step back and let me have what should have been mine from the start, Travis continued as if I hadn't spoken. Dad agrees with me. That stopped me cold. Dad? You're talking to Dad now? Travis smiled triumphantly, knowing he'd hit a nerve. For months. He's the one who suggested I claim the house, said Grandma always favored you, that it wasn't fair. He promised we could rebuild our relationship once I reclaimed the family property from you. Our father had abandoned us when Travis was 13, disappearing to start a new family across the country. That Travis would reconnect with him secretly and conspire against me based on our father's bitter revisionist history felt like the ultimate betrayal. So this is all about Dad's approval? You're willing to steal my home to please the man who walked out on us? This isn't about Dad. This is about what's rightfully mine, Travis insisted, his face flushing. The Harpers would never have accepted me without this house. You don't understand what it's like trying to measure up to their standards. So you lied to them too? Promised them a house that isn't yours to give? Allison looked between us, confusion clouding her features. Travis, what is she talking about? You said this was your family home, that she was just staying here until we got married. He lied, I told her bluntly. I bought this house. I've been paying the mortgage for 5 years. Travis has never contributed a dime. Walter Harper's expression shifted from smug certainty to suspicious calculation. Travis, is this true? Do you not actually own this property? I'm going to own it, Travis insisted, desperation creeping into his voice. It's my birthright. Dan is just being difficult, like always. I think we've heard enough, came a firm voice from behind me. Jessica stepped onto the porch, followed by Thomas Wright. Dana, are these the people attempting to fraudulently claim ownership of your property? Travis's face paled as he registered the presence of lawyers. This is a family matter, he said quickly. No need for outside involvement. On the contrary, Thomas replied. When someone attempts to claim property through forgery and false statements, it becomes a legal matter. He turned to the Harpers. I'm Thomas Wright, partner at Wright, Ellis & Bernard. I specialize in property disputes and fraud cases. Walter Harper's demeanor changed instantly from bullying to professional courtesy. Walter Harper, I'm sure there's been a misunderstanding here. No misunderstanding, Mr. Harper. We have evidence that Travis Thompson has been systematically creating false documentation and misrepresenting ownership of this property. We have the original deed, mortgage records, and Miss Thompson's grandmother's will, all clearly establishing her as the legal owner. Travis looked desperately toward Walter, whose expression had turned cold. You assured us this property was effectively yours, Walter said quietly, that there would be no legal complications. It's a family house, Travis insisted. In our family, we understand that some things are meant to be passed down to the son. Your personal family traditions don't supersede legal ownership, Jessica stated firmly. Dana has been documenting your increasingly concerning behavior for weeks. We're prepared to file for a restraining order if necessary. Travis turned to me, his expression a mixture of anger and pleading. You wouldn't do that to your own brother. After everything we've been through? I didn't want any of this, Travis. You're the one who tried to steal my home. I didn't have a choice. Do you know what it's like trying to compete with the men Allison's dated? Rich guys with family money, inheritance, connections? All I had was the promise of this house. Without it, I'm nobody to them. Allison stepped away from him, her eyes wide. So you lied to me? To my family? This house isn't yours at all? It would have been, Travis insisted. Dana would have given it to me eventually. She always gives me what I want. The raw truth of that statement hit me hard. I had spent my adult life enabling Travis's sense of entitlement. Every time I bailed him out financially, every time I excused his selfish behavior, I'd been teaching him that his wants superseded my needs. Not this time, I said quietly. This is my home, Travis. I want you to leave now. You can't be serious, he scoffed. Where am I supposed to go? What about my marriage? My future? You should have thought about that before building your future on lies, Thomas interjected. Now, I suggest you remove your vehicles from Miss Thompson's property before we contact the authorities. Travis looked desperately from face to face, searching for an ally. Finding none, his expression crumpled momentarily before hardening into resentment. "This isn't over," he muttered. But the fight had gone out of him. As he turned to leave, Thomas called after him. "One more thing, Mr. Thompson. We'll need all copies of the fraudulent documents you've created, as well as any keys to this property you may have distributed. Continued attempts to claim ownership could result in criminal charges." As Travis stormed back to his car, the movers looked uncertainly toward Allison, who appeared on the verge of tears. "Just put everything back in the truck," she instructed them quietly. "We won't be moving in after all." Walter placed a protective arm around his daughter. "We'll discuss this situation at home," he told her before turning to me with a cold smile. "Family disputes are so unfortunate. I hope you realize what you're doing to your brother's future." I believe Travis damaged his own future when he chose fraud over honesty, I replied steadily. As the Harpers retreated to their SUV, I stood on my porch watching the moving truck pull away. For the first time since discovering Travis's betrayal, I allowed myself to feel the full weight of what had happened. My brother had been willing to destroy our relationship and steal my home, all to impress his in-laws and earn our estranged father's approval. But as painful as the realization was, another truth emerged alongside it. I had finally stood my ground. After years of putting Travis's needs before my own, I had protected what was mine. The house remained my sanctuary, and in defending it I had found a strength I hadn't known I possessed. The confrontation left me shaken but resolute. Inside, Jessica and Thomas helped me document everything that had transpired while checking for any property damage Travis might have caused during his frequent, unsupervised visits. We found nothing serious, though several documents were missing from my home office. "He's been planning this for months," Jessica observed as we reviewed the timeline of events. "The wedding was just the culmination, getting his foot literally in the door." Thomas nodded grimly. "Unfortunately, we see this kind of thing more often than you'd think. Family members assuming entitlement to property, especially when there's a wealthy third party involved." "The Harpers clearly pushed him," I said, still trying to understand how my brother could betray me so completely. "Walter Harper wouldn't accept Travis without some kind of assets or property." "That may have been the catalyst," Jessica agreed, "but Travis made his choices. He could have been honest with you and with them." We spent the afternoon securing my home. I called a locksmith to change all the locks, including the side entrance where Travis had somehow obtained a key without my knowledge. I registered for informed delivery with the Postal Service to prevent any further mail diversions, and filed a formal complaint about the fraudulent change of address form Travis had submitted. "What about the renovation permits he applied for?" I asked Thomas. "I'll contact the county office first thing tomorrow to have them voided," he assured me. "We'll send formal notification that any permits for this address not submitted by you personally should be considered fraudulent." As evening approached, Jessica and Thomas prepared to leave, promising to check in the following day. I thanked them for their swift action, still processing the day's events. "Don't let your guard down yet," Thomas warned. "People who feel entitled to something rarely give up after one confrontation. Document any contact from Travis or the Harpers." After they left, the house felt eerily quiet. I wandered from room to room, seeing each space through new eyes. The kitchen where Travis and I had baked cookies with our grandmother. The living room where we'd built blanket forts during thunderstorms, each memory now tainted by his willingness to steal it all away. My phone rang repeatedly throughout the evening. Travis, then Allison, then several family members. I silenced it, needing time to process before facing any of them. Around 9, a text came through from my Aunt Susan. "Travis says you threw him out of the family home over a misunderstanding. Call me." So it had begun. Travis was already spinning his narrative to the extended family, positioning himself as the victim. I drafted a brief, factual response, explaining that Travis had attempted to claim ownership of my home through fraudulent means, but ultimately decided against sending it. Engaging in a family-wide debate would only feed the drama Travis was creating. Instead, I called Jessica, who answered immediately. "How are you holding up?" Travis is already contacting family members, telling them I kicked him out of the family home over a misunderstanding. Not surprising. People who attempt fraud rarely admit it freely. They create alternative narratives where they're the wronged party. Should I respond? Only with facts, and only if directly asked. Don't let him control the narrative, but don't get dragged into emotional arguments either. After we hung up, I found myself standing in my grandmother's bedroom, looking out at the backyard where just yesterday, Travis had celebrated his wedding. The fairy lights were still strung across the patio, now dark and still. I remembered his wedding speech about coming home and continuing the family legacy with bitter clarity. The doorbell rang, startling me from my thoughts. Through the security camera I'd installed that afternoon, I saw Travis standing alone on my porch. His shoulders were slumped, his earlier bravado replaced by what appeared to be genuine distress. My heart tugged with familiar protective instinct, but my mind remained clear. I activated the porch speaker. "What do you want, Travis?" He looked up at the camera, eyes red, rimmed. "Please, Dana. 5 minutes. Just to talk." I think we said everything that needed saying this morning. "Allison's parents are threatening to annul the marriage," he said, his voice cracking. "They say I misrepresented my financial situation and assets. Our honeymoon is canceled. They've put her in a hotel to consider her options. Please, I just need to explain." Part of me, the big sister who had always protected him, wanted to open the door, to comfort him despite everything. But the wiser part remembered Thomas's warning. I couldn't trust Travis right now, not when he was desperate and cornered. "I'm sorry about your marriage, but that's between you and Allison. I can't help you." "You've always helped me," he protested. "That's what we do, we help each other." "No, Travis, that's what I do. I help you, again and again, and apparently all it's done is convince you that my home, my possessions, my very life, is something you can take when convenient." My voice remained steady despite the emotion behind my words. "I can't do that anymore. Not after this." "So that's it? 28 years of being siblings, and you're just cutting me off because of one mistake?" This wasn't a mistake. It was a deliberate, calculated attempt to steal my home through fraud and manipulation. You involved lawyers, falsified documents, and lied to literally everyone, including your own wife. That's not a mistake, Travis. That's a crime. He stared at the camera for a long moment. Then his expression hardened. "You know what? Dad was right about you. Always so perfect, so superior. You've been holding me back my whole life, making me dependent on you so you could feel important. Is that really what you believe? After everything? You could have helped me one last time. Let me use the house until I found somewhere else. But no. You had to prove your point. Had to win. Like always." His voice rose in frustration. "You've ruined my marriage, my relationship with the Harpers, everything. You did that yourself, Travis." "Not me." "Forget it. I don't need you or this stupid house." He turned to leave, then paused. "Dad says to tell you he always knew you'd choose property over family. Guess he was right." As he stalked away, I leaned against the wall, emotions warring within me. The mention of our father, the man who had abandoned us, who had apparently been feeding Travis's resentment from afar, stung more than I wanted to admit. I was still processing the encounter when my phone rang. It was Thomas Wright. "Dana, I wanted to update you. We've been reviewing the security footage from the cameras you installed last week. I had almost forgotten about the small security cameras I'd placed in my home office after catching Travis searching through my things. Did you find something?" "Several somethings. We have clear footage of Travis entering your office when you weren't home, searching through drawers, photographing documents, and at one point, practicing your signature on a notepad. This constitutes breaking and entering, as well as attempted fraud. It's compelling evidence should we need it." "Breaking and entering?" "But he had a key, which you never gave him, correct? And you never granted him permission to enter your home in your absence or to access your private documents." "No, never." "Then it's breaking and entering, regardless of how he gained access. More importantly, we have him on camera creating the fraudulent document he tried to use today. If the Harpers attempt any kind of legal action, or if Travis continues his efforts to claim your property, this evidence would be devastating to their case. I thought of Travis's defeated expression on my porch minutes earlier. Despite everything, the idea of pressing charges against my own brother filled me with dread. What do you recommend? Document everything, including his visit tonight. Don't engage directly with him for now. Tomorrow, we'll send formal cease and desist letters to Travis and the Harpers, making it clear that you have evidence of criminal activity and are prepared to pursue charges if necessary. After hanging up, I secured the house and tried to sleep, but my mind kept returning to Travis's accusations. Had I somehow enabled this situation by always being his safety net? Had my protection actually prevented him from growing up and taking responsibility for his own life? The questions haunted me, but beneath the doubt lay a bedrock certainty. This house was mine, fairly purchased, legally owned. Whatever mistakes I might have made in our relationship, defending my home was not one of them. In the morning, Thomas called again with unexpected news. The Harpers' attorney contacted us first thing today, requesting a meeting. It seems they're concerned about potential legal exposure. What kind of exposure? If they knowingly participated in Travis's attempt to fraudulently obtain your property, they could face serious consequences. Walter Harper has a real estate license and multiple government contracts. This kind of scandal could be devastating to his business. What do they want? To distance themselves from the situation entirely, they're proposing a legally binding agreement where they acknowledge your clear ownership of the property and commit to no future involvement. In exchange, they're asking for discretion regarding their role in the matter. I considered this. And Travis? That's a separate issue. The Harpers are essentially throwing him under the bus, claiming they were misled about his ownership status. The speed with which the Harpers had abandoned Travis surprised me, though perhaps it shouldn't have. They had valued him only for what they thought he could provide: a house, status, the right optics for their daughter. Without those assets, he had no worth to them. Later that day, I received a tearful call from Allison. "I swear I didn't know," she insisted. "Travis told us this was his family home, that you were just living there temporarily until we got married. He said you'd agreed to move out as a wedding gift to us." "And you believed that? Without ever seeing a deed, a mortgage statement, any legal documentation?" "I trusted him," she said simply. "My parents handled the legal aspects. They said everything was in order." Were they aware Travis was planning to bring a moving truck the day after the wedding and essentially force me out of my own home? Her silence was answer enough. "Allison, I'm sorry your marriage is starting this way, but this is between you and Travis now. I wish you luck, whatever you decide." After hanging up, I felt a strange sense of clarity. For years, I had defined myself primarily as Travis's protective big sister, the responsible one, the caretaker. But in standing firm against his deception, I had reclaimed something vital: my own agency, my right to protect myself with the same fierceness I'd always protected him. As the day wore on, I received calls from several family members who had gotten Travis's version of events. Some were sympathetic to him, but others expressed shock when I calmly explained what had actually transpired. My cousin Rachel, who had attended the wedding, confirmed she'd overheard Travis telling guests the house would be theirs after the ceremony. "I thought it was weird, but figured maybe you'd sold it to him or something," she admitted. "I should have asked you directly." By evening, Thomas called with news that the Harpers had signed the agreement, acknowledging my ownership and committing to non-interference. "They're running scared," he explained. Apparently, Walter Harper has a government contract under review. The last thing he needs is a fraud investigation. As for Travis, he remained silent after our doorstep confrontation. According to family gossip, he was staying at a friend's apartment while trying to salvage his relationship with Allison. I felt a complex mixture of emotions: relief that the immediate threat to my home had passed, grief for the brother I thought I knew, and unexpected pride in my own strength. That night, I sat on my grandmother's porch swing, watching fireflies emerge in the summer twilight. For the first time since the wedding, I felt the tension in my shoulders begin to release. This house, with all its history and meaning, remained my sanctuary. And in defending it, I had discovered a resilience I never knew I possessed. 3 weeks passed before I heard directly from Travis again. The cease and desist letters had been delivered, my locks changed, and security improved. Life had begun returning to something resembling normal. I went to work, came home to my securely owned house, and slowly processed the emotional aftermath of my brother's betrayal. The Harpers had indeed thrown Travis under the bus entirely. Through mutual acquaintances, I heard that Walter had told business associates that Travis had misrepresented his assets and attempted to involve the Harper family in an unfortunate property dispute. Allison had moved back to her parents' home while reconsidering the marriage. I was reviewing patient files in my home office when the doorbell rang. My newly installed video doorbell showed Travis standing on the porch alone, shoulders slumped, looking nothing like the confident man who had arrived with a moving truck 3 weeks earlier. Against my better judgment, I opened the door, though I remained in the doorway without inviting him in. "Can we talk?" he asked quietly. "That depends on what you want to say." He glanced past me into the house, then back to my face. I came to apologize. What I did was wrong, all of it. I studied his expression, searching for sincerity. "Why now, Travis?" "Because I've lost everything," he admitted, his voice breaking slightly. "Allison's parents are pushing for an annulment. They're telling everyone I tried to defraud them. My so-called friends have disappeared. Dad stopped taking my calls once I couldn't deliver the house. He looked up, meeting my eyes directly, and I lost my sister. The one person who's always been there for me, no matter what. You did more than just hurt me, Travis. You tried to steal my home through fraud. You lied to everyone, including your wife. You betrayed every bit of trust I ever placed in you." "I know." He swallowed hard. "There's no excuse. I got caught up in trying to be someone I'm not, someone worthy of the Harpers, someone Dad would finally respect. I convinced myself you owed me this, that it was somehow my right. I was wrong, and I'm truly sorry." His apology seemed genuine, but years of enabling his behavior had taught me caution. "What exactly are you here for, Travis? What do you want from me now?" He looked down at his hands. "Honestly, I don't know. Forgiveness maybe, though I haven't earned it. Understanding, possibly. Or maybe just to say the words I should have said weeks ago before any of this happened. Thank you for raising me when our parents couldn't. For always believing in me, even when I gave you no reason to. For being the one constant in my life." Despite everything, I felt my eyes filling with tears. This was the brother I remembered, the one I'd protected and loved since childhood. But the wounds were still too raw, the betrayal too profound for an easy reconciliation. "I appreciate your apology, Travis, but I need time. This isn't something we can fix in one conversation." He nodded slowly. "I understand. For what it's worth, I've been seeing a therapist, trying to understand why I did what I did, why I've spent my life expecting you to solve my problems." He managed a weak smile. "Turns out I have some issues to work through." "We both do," I admitted. "I enabled your dependency for years. I thought I was helping, but maybe I was just making it easier for you to avoid growing up." We stood in awkward silence for a moment before Travis spoke again. "The lawyers said you have video of me in your office, practicing your signature." His face flushed with shame. "You could press charges if you wanted to." "I could," I agreed. "But I won't, unless you try something like this again." Relief washed over his features. "Thank you. I promise you won't regret it." "Don't make promises yet, Travis. Just do the work. Figure out who you are without the lies, without using others as crutches." He nodded and turned to leave, then paused. "For what it's worth, Grandma would be proud of you. Not just for keeping the house, but for finally standing up for yourself, even if it was against me." After he left, I closed the door and leaned against it, emotions swirling. His apology had been a start, but rebuilding trust would be a long, uncertain process. Still, something had shifted within me. The confrontation had forced me to recognize my own role in our dysfunctional dynamic and to establish boundaries I should have set long ago. Over the following months, Travis and I began the slow work of redefining our relationship. He moved to another town, found a job on his own merits, and continued therapy. Our conversations were cautious at first, then gradually more open. We discussed our childhood, our parents' failures, and the patterns we'd both fallen into as a result. Sometimes these talks were painful, sometimes healing, but they were always honest in a way we'd never been before. Allison ultimately went through with the annulment, though she reached out to me once to apologize for her family's role in the scheme. I was blinded by what I thought was love, she explained. But I've realized I was just following my parents' expectations, just like Travis was trying to meet standards set by others. As for my home, I made it truly mine in ways I hadn't before. I renovated the kitchen that had intimidated the Harpers, not to impress anyone but because I wanted to. I converted the spare bedroom that Allison had planned as a nursery into a home gym. Each change reinforced what I now knew with bone-deep certainty. This house was mine, not by default or convenience, but by choice and right. 6 months after the wedding day confrontation, I hosted a dinner party for the friends who had supported me through the ordeal. Jessica and her husband, my colleague Mark from the physical therapy practice, my neighbor Paul, who had kept an eye on my property, and a few others who had stood by me when family had not. As we sat around my dining table, sharing food and laughter, I looked at the faces of these people who had no obligation to me by blood, but who had chosen to be my community. They had helped me protect not just my property, but my sense of self-worth in them. I had found a different kind of family, one built on respect rather than obligation. "A toast," Jessica proposed, raising her glass. "To Dana, who taught us all that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is simply stand your ground." "And to new beginnings," I added, thinking of the painful but necessary evolution of my relationship with Travis. Sometimes you have to fight for what's yours before you can truly appreciate its value. Later, as my guest departed, I stood on my porch watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. The same porch where Travis had once smugly announced his intention to take my home. The same porch where I had finally found the courage to say no. The house behind me had witnessed 5 generations of women finding their strength, as my grandmother used to say. Now it had witnessed mine as well. Not in grand, dramatic gestures, but in the quiet, firm decision to protect what was mine and to require others, even those I loved, to respect my boundaries. The moving truck that had once seemed so threatening was long gone. In its place remained a hard, won wisdom, that true security comes not just from the walls that shelter us, but from the courage to defend our right to exist within them on our own terms. As the last light faded from the sky, I turned back to my home, my sanctuary, my achievement, my right with a profound sense of peace. The journey had been painful but necessary. In protecting my house, I had found my voice. And in finding my voice, I had finally, truly, come home. Have you ever had to stand up to a family member who felt entitled to something that was rightfully yours? How did you handle the situation? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe to support more content like this, and share with someone who might need to hear this message of standing firm against family manipulation. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I wish you strength in protecting what matters most to you.